So welcome to Essential Christian Leadership. It's our monthly live webinar. And worship. Over the last few months we've developed this new resource called Essential Christian Leadership. A chance for us and other church leaders to gather together to learn from a well-known UK-based church leader and to grow together. Because we know that when leaders grow stronger, churches grow stronger. One of the advantages of doing a live webinar is we can get your questions. If you've got questions you'd like to ask our guest today, please do send them in throughout our discussion. We would love to hear from you. This month we're really excited to have with us, live from the offices of Evangelical Alliance here in the centre of London, we have with us Pastor Yemi Adedeji. Yemi is an ordained Anglican priest and part of the leadership team of Jesus House, part of the Redeemed Christian Church of God network, which has over 800 churches now around the UK, which came out from Lagos, Nigeria many years ago. Yemi is married to Simi with 4 children, and he's also, I have to read these because there's quite a few on the list here. You're also a director of One People Commission for the EA. You're associate director of Hope Together UK. Right. You're global ambassador for the Compassion UK. Right. And you're ambassador for Cinnamon Network.
I used to be.
Used to be. I was doing so well. But welcome, this is Yemi, welcome. It's good to have you with us.
Great to be here. And I want to say thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this. It's exciting.
This will be fun.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to ask you the question, Yemi. How come that you are both an Anglican priest and a Pentecostal pastor? How did that come around?
You know, oftentimes I don't know myself. I just realize that oftentimes God trick you into a particular role or function because he has something for you to do in the course of your life. I started out first as a Pentecostal pastor, then as a Pentecostal pastor, and then in the course of my life I found myself at a Church Mission Society, CMS. I was there for 7 years. So while I was there, I felt the Lord then spoke to me that he's called me to be a bridge. Yeah. And then when you are a bridge, you must be able to understand the context of different links that you as a bridge, you understand. So that was when I explored the opportunity of becoming an Anglican priest, having been a Pentecostal pastor working for Church Mission Society. So I now find myself connecting that relationship together. And I know that it's a call for me. Yeah. It's not just a job, it's not just an accident. Is a call, and that is why it is reflected in most of the things that I do today.
Yeah, fantastic. So, as part of your role as a bridge, I love that kind of that analogy of connecting different groups together. Tell us a bit more about the One People Commission that you've been developing with the Evangelical Alliance the last few years.
Well, about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, when Steve Clifford, the current general director, came into post here. The then Afro-Caribbean Evangelical Alliance, which was then associated with EA, collapsed, wasn't more in existence. But Steve had all along is to see how we can have a united church in the UK that embraces people of different ethnicity, culture, expressions, particularly the migrant churches. And so he began to speak to different church leaders. I was amongst those whom he spoke to. And having had that experience all along, and then I advised him all along in terms of when you see these people, this is the way you talk, this is what you say, this is what you need to say, this is how you express yourself. They don't answer email, but personal relationship is important. Having meal around the table is important. So all that sort of thing. So he built that relationship and that network. And then they asked me whether I'll come and lead a new movement, which will not be Afro-Caribbean, but will be every expression of migrant churches that are in the United Kingdom. So right now we have expression from Japanese to Iranian to Egyptian to all sort of the South American network, the old Caribbean network. We now have in Polish, Romania churches, all different expressions from African network, the Asian, the South Asian Forum. We have Korean, we have Chinese, we almost have close to about 23 different nationalities. And the idea for that is some are coming in new who are a little bit afraid. Who do I connect? How do I connect? Where do I go to? So it's to learn from those who have been there for a long time. We've passed through this thing. These are the pathways. These are the things we need to do. Ultimately, it's about how can we integrate with the host community, and how can we learn from them, and how can we influence what they have, and how can we together grow that which God has called us to do.
Fantastic. I mean, obviously, we're a very diverse nation here in the UK, and so those expressions of church have been phenomenal. Are there any gaps of groups you've not been able to connect with, or you just haven't managed to make the relationships with as yet?
I think there are loads. If you look at the diversity and the ethnic expression we have in the United Kingdom, quite a lot of them. Some are still operating in silos, and it's understandable. That's how most migrant churches will start. They will first of all try to find safety in themselves, try to find a bit of stability, and then they start to lean out. So what we are doing now is to be stretching out to some of them. Like the expression of Japanese church in this country is very, very few, but it's to tell them the Egyptian Evangelical Church are very, very few, but it's to reach out to them that let's work together, let's help you, let's support you in wherever you are. So there are quite a few, but we're growing. Yeah, we're growing.
Right. And tell us some of your experience of you've travelled around, you've met with different churches and church leaders from very different backgrounds. What are some of the cultural difference extremes that you've kind of met? So maybe some of the fun sort of stuff you've had to kind of understand.
I've had so much fun. So I would say most of the experiences are personal to me in my early days. They used to send me around to preach in different churches in the country. And then I will remember one church I went and got there in the morning and they asked me, "Can you speak English?" So I said to them, "I will try." and oftentimes I take my children to who are real British. You can be as British as you are, and you ask them, "When did you come? When are you going back?" So they will say to them that, "Dad, what did he say? We live here." I said, "Don't worry, it's part of the job." And then I was at another church when I was asked, "We're not sure you can speak to us. Can you dance for us?" So,
seriously?
Yeah. So I don't get offended about it anymore because I just think there's a difference between being racist and being ignorant. So I take it from the point that they really don't understand. So I didn't take them on the journey of understanding this expression and narrative. Or they might think, "Do you know Richard in Africa?" So I say, "Oh, but there are so many countries in Africa. I don't even know Richard that lives in Nigeria or Richard that lives in Lagos." So not everybody that you see is a typical Richard in Africa. So these are the kind of things that you have to take it with a pinch of salt. You know, my first time I've been at New Wine, and when we got there, I'm used to sleeping in hotels, in a proper home. And I got there, I said, where am I sleeping? They said, "Put up your tent." I said, "Black man don't camp." I'm from Africa. I can't come from Africa and come from England and be camping. Are you kidding me? That is not going to happen. So
where do you sleep then?
Well, I tell you the truth, I slept in my car.
Was that better, was it?
Well, it was better in my car than sleeping in an open field because in my mind I'm thinking an hyena is going to come up.
Oh, wow.
Is going to come up somewhere.
So give me some advice then. As a white church leader, what are three of the sort of worst things I could do, sort of culturally, sort of errors I could make from people who come from other overseas, any nations, but particularly maybe Africa that you might have experience of? What can I do to improve my diversity and how I can welcome everyone from every type of culture?
Okay, that's a very good question, and the answer is not difficult. Okay. There are different types of church leaders. Some say they want to engage with diversity. They say it, they don't mean it, and they will not do it. But they will keep on saying it. And some will say, it's not just a matter of what we have on paper or what we're saying. I really want to do it. And that is when intentionality comes into it. So until you are intentional about it, you can't make it happen. It's just what you say. It's not what we say. What are you doing intentionally to actually make it happen? When I came to EA, Steve and I sat down that we want to make Evangelical Alliance to reflect the evangelical churches United Kingdom. So we sat down, how is that going to happen? This is going to be intentional and strategic. Now, let's look at the Council of Evangelical Alliance. How many people are ethnic minority there? Now it's about 25% of the people. Resource and source for that to happen. In the EA board, we thought you can have evangelicals in this country at 25%, and the EA board, you only have one ethnic minority. Let it reflect what it says. So we recruited to represent that. We look at the staff. Let us look at the staff of EA. It must represent that ethnic mix that we are. So we reflected and we changed on that. We look at when we sit down at meetings, when we're discussing. So we're conscious that there are people that are not like us, that might want to be part of what we're doing. So let's think through, Yemi, what is happening in your stream? What is it we are missing? What is it that we're doing that we need to pay attention to? So it requires a little bit of attention and intentionality that I really want to make this. And it's not easy. No, it's not easy at all. It's challenging because you are derobing yourself to re-robe.
Okay, it's a good line.
Yeah. Because you are more like you are deconstructing to reconstruct.
Yeah.
And when you are deconstructing, it's painful. When you are derobing yourself, it's painful. You're saying that what I'm used to wearing, I want to drop it off so that I can wear another robe. Now it's going to be it's a two-way thing because you are just we don't have it all sorted out even here at EA and the people I engage with. We still have our conflicts, we still have the tension, but we understand that the focus of what we want to achieve is important more than where we are, because this is how to play it. In 25 years' time, Britain is going to be more diverse, more ethnically mixed than you can never imagine. It's there, right? My kids who are born in this country, they're black, outside in skin, but they're absolutely white. And so will be many people who have migrated into this country. So, and as we progress into the next 20-25 years, we need a strategy. We need the plans to make our church grow by integrating and planning that. Because 20-25 years time, when I'll be, 70 or something like that, the kids who are the emerging leaders today are the ones that are going to take over, and they don't see color. And so we must be able to create a space for them to come in. I mean, the scripture I always use is when David wanted to build the temple for the Lord, and the Lord says, "No, you can't. Your hand is stained with blood." Racism, with ignorance, with all sort of things. And God is saying, no, not you, but prepare it for your son. So get everything ready for your son. Get your son. That prejudice and that racism.
As UK-based church leaders, to be looking at our local community, our towns, our villages, and saying, does my church truly reflect the community I'm trying to serve?
Absolutely.
And if it doesn't,
what do I do about it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you have 100% white, no diverse groups in your town, then fine. But let's keep an open mind and an open door. But if you're 50-50, or if you're 25%, then let's try and make sure our church is reflecting that. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. We got to develop church that relate to the environment and the community where we are. Because if you don't, you're going to have what I call a church flight, which many have experienced. I was at a meeting called sometimes ago by the Archbishop representing with the bishop representing the ethnic churches, and in the southeast of London is a very ethnic minority diverse or ethnic majority diverse, and most of the Anglican churches there are now populated by people of ethnic mix. And here I am, I'm a white Anglican vicar. And 80% of my church are from ethnic migrant churches. I don't have a clue. Yeah. You know, I've been trained in St. Andrews, I've been trained in a church from a theological background that is totally different from the expression of these people. These people want to dance. Yeah. They don't want a solemn service. Yeah. They want to do thanksgiving. They want to give. They want to party. Yeah. And then it creates a challenge because what they were experiencing then was that most of the white folks were in the church, then they began to leave. So it's not to create that, it's to close the gap of the flight. Yeah. Because you either have a black flight or a white flight. Yeah. When you have a massive migration of ethnic minority into a church, it often creates discomfort for those who have been there. Yeah. And they start saying, this is not the way our church is. It's no more. It's not the church I'm grown up It's church I'm born with. You know, this is not how it's now been filled with people. Instead of embracing, oftentimes we think, let's go back to what we're used to.
So re-robing what was comfortable.
Exactly. So why should I do
put our slippers back on? Yeah.
So what we can get out of this, and let's see how we can move forward.
Oh, this is great. I mean, have we got any questions coming in at all? If you've got any questions you want to add to us, we'll keep talking. I've got loads of questions I'd love to ask Yemi, but if you've got any questions, do send them in. It'd be great to hear from you. One of my questions I'd love to ask, I suppose personally, is I've seen around the UK, we often have a Chinese church, an Egyptian church, you know, a black majority Nigerian church, you know, and then your white village church. Is your desire to go, that's okay, or do you think actually we'd love them all to be merged, that we have this almost blending of church, you know, blending of cultures, or do we say actually it's okay to go, we'll have a Chinese church in the afternoon and we'll have the African church in the evening and the white church in the morning, and we do almost diversity in silos? Is there a way of doing it?
It's a very good question, because what we must pay attention to is that unity without uniformity. What is key is unity, but it's not to make everyone a central forum where we represent our individuality, because God created us to be different. If not, God could have created everybody to be either black or white. God created us to be different because God wants us to express ourselves within the context of the culture, and how He wants us to celebrate our diversity in that sense. But at the same time, He wants us to come together in unity. So the element of basically answering your question is, each leader must understand, who have I been called to? Very important. Which people group have I been called to? Have I been called to just Nigerians? They're not doing Nigerian church. God is happy about it. There are so many Nigerians that are saved. Have I been called to completely an English church? Then I will do an English church, because that's what God wants. But God has put in the heart of some people that have called you actually to lead a church that is mixed. Now, it's challenging to lead a mixed church than lead an homogeneous church. And it's a calling. It's a grace that God has given. And then God will then bring people who have such mind, who have such passion within the community of that kind of church. However, the danger is, if I live within a predominantly particular culture and I want to do another church that is of a strange culture, then I'm not a missionary church. So that means I have to take cognizance of the culture and the environment that I am. Because God's heart in reaching out to the people is more important than denomination, is more important than our liturgy, is more important on our expression, because God wants to see people to become followers of Jesus. So that must be what drives our heart.
Oh, this is really good. I'm finding this fascinating. I mean, obviously, you live in London. I'm in the south coast, and the demographics are different everywhere you go around the UK. If you go up into the northeast, if you go into Wales, all around the UK, you know, although we are a diverse nation, almost every county is different again. And so, when you go and visit churches, do you adapt what you're bringing, looking around at the church audience almost? You go, you know what, today is obviously that joke won't work, that story won't make sense. Do you have to kind of...
But the quality of a good speaker is the ability to have emotional intelligence. People really will receive you before they receive your message.
That's good.
Right? So if I come with my Nigerian narratives, jokes and everything in a village, pure English Anglican church, I've lost them. Right? So what makes a good speaker? Because it's like Paul. Yeah. Paul contextualized his narrative, his message, his expression to suit the people where he's ministering to. So a good example for me is I might be preaching from a particular passage, but I'm preaching. It's not uncommon for me to preach at both an Anglican church and a Pentecostal church on a Sunday.
In the same day.
Same day. Even maybe in the same morning.
Yeah.
Right? Here I am, I'm in an Anglican church with all my gabs on, everything, the whole shabbat. Yeah. Right? Standing on the pew or the rostrum or the pulpit, you know, speaking like a proper Anglican language. Yeah. You know, do what you want to do, you know, go through this stuff. And then few hours down the line, I'm in my suit saying, "Come on, brother, hallelujah." You got to keep this thing going. You know? Yeah. So it's adjusting to the context of where you find yourself. But the goal is the most important. Yeah. What is the goal? Word of God has to be received by the people. And Jesus has to be made known. Yeah. And people need to get that passion of Christ in them. And for those who doesn't know him, must develop that hunger to become the follower of Jesus. It's more important. So I would rather change style, method, just to get the message of Jesus being known to people.
Absolutely. Actually, I remember that well-known phrase, I think it was Andy Stanley said, we must be married to our mission, but mildly infatuated with our style. You know, our style can change, but our mission is still the mission. It must remain the same. Remains the same. So what is your kind of future hope for the One People Commission? What's your, you know, it's fairly new in 5 years, 4 or 5 years old. What's your kind of future dream for that to become?
You know, if there's anything that... there are a couple of things, but it all centers around the imagined leaders. Okay. The young people. Yeah. That's where if you caught me, you will see that everything about me is how do I prepare the next generation to enter into the world where they'll be passionate about Christ without having ethnic distinctiveness that separates them from other people. Yeah. That's what I'm not really bothered about. All the older folks who have my different, all of us, when we come to One People Commission meeting, you can hear all different accents speaking English. Yeah. Japanese with an English, Japanese but an English tone, a Chinese with an English tone, a South American with an English tone, an Asian with an English tone. I'm in Nigeria with an English tone. You know, see the African. So we are all speaking English, but we're speaking from the narrative of our mother tongue.
Yeah. Sounds like the day of Pentecost.
Absolutely. That's how One People Commission meeting looks like. Yeah. But fast forward 10, 20 years, we're going to have these young people. Though they come in from different backgrounds, but they have now come united. Yeah. Not losing the identity of who they are, but growing up in a passion and hunger that there's no discrimination, no prejudice, and no racism. And so what I've done now is we're now growing up a group of young people that represent each of those ethnic mix. So we are mixing them when we have some of the One People Commission core meeting. We will bring these young people just to say, watch, observe. It's your future. We're just toughening the game. You're the real players. Yeah. So work with us. We take advice from them. We've done a lot of research to understand what they're thinking, what they think about church, what they think about all of these things. But that's where my passion is.
Yes. that's a great vision of what it could look like. I think as each generation comes through, it seems like this is possible. Just how long will it take? But each generation seems to have a better understanding of actually we are people first and colour second.
Absolutely.
And that definitely is changing, although maybe not as fast as we would like. I've got a question here. How much is the style of preaching, worship and length of services or formality a barrier for people of different backgrounds to feel comfortable together? How can we adapt our different preaching styles, worship styles, services?
It depends on where you are. It depends on where you are. I guess in a typical Church of England, Anglican Church, you're not supposed to preach more than 20-25 minutes if you get through to that. But if you go to a proper Pentecostal church, 20 minutes is still like you're warming up. Welcome and stuff like that. Because if you preach 20 minutes, they're thinking, what's wrong with you? Do you have a word in you? We didn't come here to come and have a 20 minutes chat. We have notebook, we have Bible, we have pen, we have markers. We want to hear the word.
Yeah.
Preach the word, brother.
Yeah.
And then they don't want you to do a 2 minutes prayer, the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Everybody go away. They're thinking, are you kidding me? We want some prayers. We want to pray. We want to be engaged. So I think the answer to the question is understanding the different expression and different the expression to fit in the context of the people who you are. Like I said, I'm in a typical Anglican church. I'm not going to pray for long. I'm not going to preach for long.
Yeah.
Because everything is structured.
Yeah.
Now, I come to my Pentecostal church, they give you a program, they said sermon 45 minutes, thereafter prayer 15 minutes. You won't get that in an Anglican church.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't mean you do that, but it's just that you adjust within the context of the people. So that, because if what you are bringing in doesn't suit the congregation you are speaking to, they can easily shut off. For example, I always say, if you speak to an English audience, you have to excite their intellect before you get to their emotions.
Yeah.
If you speak to an ethnic minority audience, if you go first to their intellect, you lose them.
Okay. Right.
You have to go to their emotion and then connect it to their intellect.
That's good advice. Okay. So, as somebody who communicates in different locations, I'm taking notes. I'm thinking, okay, intellect first, or emotion first.
Emotion first.
Yeah, okay.
Because once you get with them with their emotion, you get them going because they are people of relationship.
Yeah.
So that relationship, that connection, that emotion, it has to click. Then anything you want to give intellectually or biblically, intellectually, they're open for it. Yeah. But if you dive into that first, they're thinking we're not connected. We don't even know this guy where it comes from.
And probably that you just said about people of relationship, I think that can also be a different, it isn't just about our presentation.
That's what it is.
It is about how we connect.
Yes.
And we can go into some, more sort of kind of formed churches where it is about, we have a 1 hour service, it is 10 minutes, 2 minutes, and we go out the door, we might shake a hand, but we are gone.
Yeah.
Others, they get there early, we're going to eat, we're going to meet,
Absolutely.
we're going to drink, spend time.
Absolutely.
We don't start on time because the value is the relationship, not the meeting.
Not the meeting. See, when I go to an Anglican church, you don't expect to get anything out of it. But what I mean is that when you go in there, just go in there, live there. How much is your cost for travel? £12, 20p. That's the cost of the transportation. Off you go. Yeah. Where you go to a typical Pentecostal charismatic church of African or Afro-Caribbean mix. They first of all daze you with all manner of things. When you're going, they say, can I have the key of your car? They put basket of fruit. If I go with my children, they provide lunch for them. They do all of that. So I'm thinking, but it's a different. It's because you have to understand a different culture. Not one is not better than the other, but it's the understanding that we enter. All that doesn't matter. It's Christ-centered.
That's great.
It's God that we're seeking.
That is a great focus, because we can start going, I like this, but I like that. I prefer my style or that style, but actually, are we being Christ-centered?
Always.
That's really good. And sometimes I've got another question here. We need to probably wrap up the questions in a moment. But one of the questions here about, in your experience in both denominations, What can Anglicans and Pentecostals learn from each other? So let's pretend for a moment you're speaking to an Anglican vicar.
Yeah.
All right. What can he learn about the Pentecostal movement, and then vice versa? We'll spin that around.
I would say what will be key is one, relationship,
Yeah.
flexibility, hospitality, and if you want to go spiritual, prayer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And if I spin it to my Pentecostal brothers, I would say discipline of time.
We're all thinking it. Yeah.
Discipline of time, more of the word,
Yeah.
the word of God. You know because more of the word of God without making it personal, but rather making it so out in there that people can get it for themselves. And then I will also say awareness of their context and the
about Yemi and the work he does, the bridge, that's a great phrase. Then look up One People Commission on the EA website. I'm sure if you want to get in touch with Yemi on Twitter and ask any further questions, I'm sure he'd like that. But thank you for your interest, thank you for your time and joining us today. Next month we'll be joined by a great friend of mine, Stuart Bell. Stuart leads the Alive Church in Lincoln, a multi-site church there, and heads up the Ground Level Network, and we'll be the questions. If you've got any questions you want to ask Stuart next month, or things you want us to forward on to Yemi, we'd love to do so. But we hope you've learned something new today. We hope you grow stronger as leaders and your churches